You're not going to go outside and yell at a plant and tell it to bloom. It doesn't work. You're an organism. It's not about the day. It's about the year. It's how much did you work on your body for an entire year?
Welcome to Everyday Masters, the show where we seek to understand mastery, people who have it, people who try for it, people who struggle with it, and how we all manifest it in our own lives. Welcome to Everyday Masters. Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters. Everyday Masters. Everyday Masters. Everyday Masters. Hey, welcome to Everyday Masters. I'm Maury Sterling, and I've been an actor for the last 30 years. You probably have no idea who I am.
And I am Craig Diamond. I've been in marketing for 30 years. I've got a master's in psychology, and for sure you don't know who I am.
We came up with the idea for this podcast because as an actor, one of my favorite things is getting to talk to the specialists they bring on set. All the people who come to set to help us actors look like we know what we're doing.
And for me, I've always considered myself to be a jack of all trades, but master of none. I'm pretty good at a decent amount of things, but not a master at any of them. I'm excited to learn how to become a master if that's possible.
The aim of the show is to absolutely talk to people who are obviously experts, but we also want to talk to the everyday master, people who've been doing things in their lives for years with passion and discipline, and nobody may think of them that way, but they are absolutely masters. Now, welcome to this episode of Everyday Masters.
Hello, Maury Sterling.
Hello, Craig Diamond. How are you?
Good, I think. Good. What's going on? Good and bad and stressed and not stressed right this second, though, which tells me I'm enjoying doing this, but have had some stress. I know what's going on. Take two. Ask me how I'm doing.
All right. How you doing, Craig?
I'm doing okay. And in the name of being real and talking about what's going on, I have this small ferret weasel inside of me that we've talked about the ferret weasel. I really want to be somebody when great things happen for people in my life. I can go, wow, that is so great. That great thing is happening for somebody. And I do feel that way. But really what happens is immediately the ferret weasel inside goes like this. Oh, all your fucking friends are doing so much better than you. You're such a loser. Look at how good they're doing. You're a loser. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's a ferret weasel. And I've dealt with that. People are doing cool shit. There's success and abundance around me. And by the way, I live a good life too. The ferret fucking weasel just goes, everybody's doing better than you. Yeah. You're a loser.
Yeah. You were the one who said to me, though, once, what if you're both right? It's that hard thing to carry. Like they can exist at the same time.
What do you mean?
Like they can be doing well and you can be doing well.
Exactly. Why does there have to be a goddamn winner and loser?
It's a real I had one the other day, but like I flipped it and was like, hey, that was great news. I got to flip it. You got to flip it.
So what you're saying is flip it?
I'm saying ferret weasels in your head, chewing at your self-esteem. All right, we're going to terrify people.
Maury's so much more handsome than you.
Well, I mean, there's some things which just are like, that's the way it is. But oh God, what was up for me this week? I'm proud of myself lately, and that is hard for me to say because of my noise. Oh, boo-hoo. But I noticed I can see the result of my labor. There's been a chapter in my life where I put a lot of effort into a bunch of things, and they're all coming alive, which is really cool. And now it's how do I stay calm in the busy? Which is why I think this show's guest is apropos for that. My buddy Derek is an amazing trainer, physiologist. He's a veteran. He served in the Marines. He's an incredibly accomplished martial artist. He's an incredible dad, and he's been an incredible husband, and he's also just been an incredible friend. I am super excited this week to talk to my dear pal, Derek King. Anyhow, everybody, I am super excited to welcome this week's guest, or this show week. It's not a week show. It's like it's this show's guest.
This is great. Good start. Keep going.
You passed the baton. You said, Maury, you do it, and I'm doing it.
Super efficient start. Keep going.
There wasn't already a TV show called Nailing It, we'd call this Nailing It. Anyhow, I am so thrilled on this show to have my dear friend, my trainer, my pal. welcome Derek King to Everyday Masters.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Derek, thanks for being on the show. The question we like to open with when somebody comes on is, how did you feel when I asked you to be on a show called Everyday Masters?
My initial thought was, I think that it's something that can be applied in a lot of different areas of people's lives. We're not a one-dimensional type of creature. And so I thought that your take on it with, things that we come up with every single day, battles that we have every day, and how do you become proficient at those things that make up those moments which are life? And as you expressed to me, and you said that we're going to look at different people from different areas of life who can do the balance between the work life, the play life, the family life, and are proficient at their career and their profession and mastering something that they put a lot of time into, but as well as not take away from other areas of their life. I thought that was an intriguing thing to me. And so I was excited to see what happens.
For everybody listening, let me backtrack a little bit and give you some info. I met Derek doing a play years ago, which we had a very good time doing. But since then, he's an unbelievably accomplished martial artist. He served in the military. You were Special Forces 4th Recon Marines. He's a guy I know who is insanely curious. I think one of the things I respect most about Derek is if there's a problem, he really wants to find the solution and will approach that solution from as many angles as he can.
We have a lot of people, especially younger people that listen to the show, that are on their way to mastery. So we always like to figure out, okay, we're going to get to where you are today and maybe areas that you feel you have mastery in, or frankly, that we feel you have mastery in. But how did it start? Where'd you grow up? Who are you? Is who you are today informed by something that happened in the past? Or can you walk us through the major beats that got you to where you are?
Absolutely. My background is, it's interesting. I come from a broken home. My family was really religious. I didn't go to a traditional school for those reasons. And when I was 6, I was exposed to martial arts. And just because of religious reasons for my family, I wasn't allowed to participate in that. And I think that sparked an interest. But I didn't align with traditional religion. It just didn't sit well with me. When I was 12, my family moved to Montana, and I had a paper route. And still not being traditionally schooled, I found a dojo that was at the local YMCA. And I had my paper route, and I just wandered over. A great man, Kenji Nakagawa, he talked to me and said, "Hey, come clean my floors and I'll take care of you." So every day I would just go there, and that's where I lived. I didn't really socialize that much, and understanding that I had a choice at that time, that I could either go one direction or the other. And I chose the dojo and train every day and develop myself as best I could.
You said two directions. So one was go to the dojo. What would the other direction have been?
The other direction would probably have been self-destruction. So that would be the choice, is either apply myself in a way and understand my body and really dive into exploring what I'm capable of and my limits as a person. And it started developing at that point because I always had an interest in being strong. And I'm not the biggest guy. I was never the strongest. I had chronic dislocations and injuries growing up. And I really knew deep down that I wasn't a person who wasn't that coordinated. And I had something inside me that I needed to express. And martial arts gave me a vehicle to do that. And I think from being such a formative time in my life, it allowed me to learn some basic principles and patterns of behavior that, because I had the relationship with it where I didn't have many other things. And so as far as a school went, that was my education. And then when I was 17 years old, I went and I was going to be a Navy SEAL, but the Navy office was closed. The Marines said, "Hey, we have this thing, it's better." So I wanted to get out of Dodge, and I went that route. And martial arts, because of that, allowed me to pursue a knowledge base in health sciences and started reading books like Grey's Anatomy, understanding Bruce Lee, his Tao Jeet Kune Do, and reading his book, The Art of Expressing the Human Body, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Bodybuilding Encyclopedia, Frank Zane, these icons of that era allowed me to say, okay, these are my heroes. These are the masters of their crafts. I want to be like them. I don't want to be them. I don't want to emulate them. I want to be myself, but I want to take components of those and see where I can take it. It wasn't until after the Marine Corps, I went up to LA, and my dream was to be a stuntman. And that's how I met Maury. We did our play. I was a soldier. He was the star, of course. And we would do karate in the backyard. And that's what kind of clicked, was just that martial arts brought us together. And that's something that's dear to both of us. And that's where we shared our commonality. And that was almost 20 years ago.
I was holding a bag once for Derek to do some kicking. It was uncomfortable. Even the pad, it hurt. I got kicked back like 4 feet. Derek, we'll probably be all over the place because that's the way I think. But one of the things I remember you saying, and correct me if this is incorrect, is I think I remember you saying because you learned through martial arts to remove some shoulder, you also now know how to put it back. And I thought that was incredible after years of the martial training, destructive training, that you'd flipped it into healing. Because I also, what I know of martial arts, that's high level martial arts. You realize like you'd rather heal than harm. But
that's the progression when you look at something like that. And I've been able to apply that into performance. After I was up and did my time up in LA, didn't make a lot of money as a stuntman. I did a little bit, but I decided to go back to school for kinesiology.
What's that mean? Kinesiology is the scientific study of human body movement. I thought I knew what it was, but I had to look it up. Hope that helps.
I moved back down to San Diego. Just called a gym down here at Del Mar Workout. Said, hey, I'm a new trainer. Come down. Can I work with you guys? And the owner of the gym said, sure. So I came down. I had a Ford Ranger truck. I got down, got the job. And then a few weeks after that, my truck broke down. I didn't have any money. I was at the gym and I started folding towels and to get clients, and then enrolled in school. And I would sleep in my truck. And the gym owner knew I was doing that. And he said, hey, here's the key. And he said, just open it up in the morning. So I slept on an exercise mat next to a washer and dryer, would open the gym up in the morning and train people all day, build my practice, go to school and hitch rides in order to get to whatever class I needed to get to, or pay a taxi till I could get my truck fixed. That's how I built it. And shortly after that, met my wife and just kept progressing in this field until I've reached to the point in my career that I'm at now, which is completely on the other side, working with the top level celebrity athletes that you can find and dealing with that machine, which is completely different. But the whole time doing that, we had families and personal things happen. As I started my family, married my wife, my son was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. That was a big hit. But my approach to that was the same way, where it was, okay, I know the body, I know how to beat something up, I know what the muscles are, I understand the acupuncture areas, and I know all of that. Okay, I need to take it to the next level. We need to go deeper. So we went back to school for our master's degrees, and we really started to dive into internal functional medicine. And that's when I started to do genetic testing and blood testing and stool tests, and became a diagnostic nutritionist. Because when I viewed that autism, I didn't view it as something that wasn't out of control. I said, okay, what can I do in my field? What are my tools that I have mastered to this point that I'm able to give to him? Not try to go out of my scope and be somebody that I'm not, but what power do I have at this moment that I can give him? And that was to make him as optimal as he could be. And so I used what I had in my resource bag to say, here's what I can offer him. If we can allow him to be as healthy and as physically fit as possible, that allows him to at least heal as much as he can with outside therapies to potentially have a greater effect on his overall well-being and give him a little bit more of a shot in life. And so that's what I've done as far as the family goes, and be able to personally utilize something that I have learned within my craft to address a milestone that I never would have expected ever in my life. And my son's progressed tremendously. He's doing great, still nonverbal, but his motor function is perfect, where he runs races and that sort of thing. So that was an area where I could directly apply it to my life. And I think that was probably the most positive thing that I found as far as my journey to this point.
Awesome. Already feeling inspired to hear you talk. It's great. Question for you in the professional timeline-y thing. How'd you get from sleeping on the mats to celebrity athlete clients?
Initially, in my kind of journey through this fitness world, initially, I just got a basic, what's called the International Sports Science Association certifications, and anybody can get those, general trainer thing. Once you receive upper levels of degrees, you can get other things within the industry and specialize in certain things. So what I did is I specialized in clinical exercise. And early in my career, I had people come to me who were primarily older adults with clinical issues, knee replacements, hip replacements, and orthopedic issues, weight loss, that type of thing. But as it started to progress and my understanding of other different diseases, especially neurological ailments like Parkinson's and MS and Alzheimer's, I had the opportunities to work with some of those patients and really understand and work with physicians and really build a network of clinicians around me and say, okay, where do I fit within this wheel? And I ended up working with a woman with Alzheimer's for almost 2.5 years at a senior living home. And I was able to design programs for Alzheimer's people. And this is all very new. And from those opportunities I had opportunities to design exercise equipment. I met with people from NASA, and I just had the passion. And I always wanted to understand more because the human body is so complex and it's never ending and it's always changing. So as it progressed, after my son was diagnosed and he started to get his motor function together, I said, martial arts, I love that. And I was doing jujitsu and I needed an outlet because I had a lot of rage. I wanted to control that because I had that hit. And that when something happens to you, who cares? But when it happens to your son, like your son's talking, then he's not, and he's catatonic, that it feels like a death. And so it was the marriage thing. Where do I channel? Where do I put it? I did jujitsu, but he was watching me, but he didn't have the biomechanics to do it. So then I found a organization called Spartan, which is obstacle course racing. And that fit my body type and it fit well with what I was familiar with from the Marine Corps. And a lot of the research came out because of the amount of environmental stimulus that people on the spectrum could receive in mud and heat and wet and cold, as well as up and down, balancing. I decided to use that as a vehicle and model that for him. So I started competing, but being who I am, if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to be last. So I found some of the best runners in San Diego and I found a gym and I started training there. And just with my knowledge, they would come to me for a lot of the biomechanical and strength and power issues. And I went with them and learned how to run. And I got my butt kicked for months and months. And then I started catching them. And so from that point, I started competing and that became my outlet. And I studied environmental physiology. We look at VO2 max. I was able to take a lot more of that athletic profile, became strength and conditioning coach, who really looked at those types of athletes and how do I train them. So I started getting more of those people coming to me. A lot of professional runners, a lot of professional endurance athletes, because they needed the strength to prevent injury. And that's how that worked. I ended up finishing that in the World Championships in Iceland. And so I did a 24-hour race in Iceland, freezing in the dark in the middle of winter. It was the top 200 in the world. I ended up getting 30th, but I got my number. I wanted 50 miles. I got my 50 miles. It was interesting because I had gratitude the whole time because I knew this would never happen again. And even though I'm on the top of a mountain, it's 30 below, but I'm going down an ice sheet and I'm lifting buckets of ice and hanging upside down. I just had a great time and I somehow did it. Now I look back at those pictures. I'm like, how?
Wow.
How? I'm in a different place. But it was through those milestones. I ran New York Marathon for charity. And from that, I had opportunities of more people saying, okay, this guy not only understands this, he practices what he preaches. And I did a little bit of an example for a lot of my clientele. And I said, hey, support me. I'm going to run up Mount Whitney and we're going to go for the world record. And so I took a track coach from San Diego, from Canyon Kester Academy, Luis de la Vega, and we ran it in 7 hours and 20 minutes. And we're passing people in full near gear with shorts and t-shirts in our little running pants. I only fell once, but that was on the way down. But those things are what kind of separated me and got my name out there. And then I was able to build a business around that and got a lot of really loyal people and treated my business like a martial arts studio. Fitness is something that goes on forever. And if you're a great teacher and you have that guide, I don't tell people don't go and see other people. use all, and now more in health management with older adults. I have a guy going to get stem cells in Colombia on Saturday because that means something to him. He's 74 years old and he wants to give it a shot. So I set that up for him. And we'll look at different areas of the entire body of the person, and I get them what they need. If they need a physician that does this and that, my network is big enough now that I'm able to facilitate that. So that's most of what I do now, is put things together and packages and then guide the ship and say, how do we get this person where we need to get them, and what do you need to become optimal?
Beautiful.
I don't know what to say. I took a cold shower for 2 minutes today.
Were you in it, or was your hand in it waiting for the warm water?
Let me fill the audience in a little bit. Derek and I have known each other for years. I've taken any kind of physical ailment I've ever had, a knee thing or a calf pull or a rupture, all my injuries. Eventually I would call Derek and go, what do you think I should do? And he always had a really interesting response and a very direct and immediate answer. I would say, what's this? And he'd say, it's this and it's this and it's this. So we'll do this. And he had these very thought out, very specific approaches to fixing the problem. And it always blew me away. And I think it always worked. COVID hit and the two of us were like, why haven't we been doing this sooner? But I started training with Derek's for the last 2.5 years now. We've been training regularly, and to sing his praises, I've gone through a complete body transformation, probably the best shape I've ever been in my life. And it's really nice. And it's been really transformative. Just so you all know, that's what we're talking about.
You've come so far. And we're doing it virtually, which is, this whole thing has been over the phone. So you've transformed. I haven't seen you in person in years, which is crazy. But when it comes to, like, when I approached, let's use you for an example, Maury, and let's talk about what you have mastered up to this point.
You can sing my praises.
I will. And I don't give a lot of compliments, but when the compliment is needed, I will give a compliment. I give one a month. So with you, it's interesting, because when you have a body and you say, okay, I'm doing this through a medium of a telephone, how do I relate to this person? How do I guide this person? It's very difficult to see everything, because vision is such an important part of this, to be able to see the difference, the symmetry, and the biomechanics. But, when you think about starting and giving yourself adequate amount of time, I use the example when I say, this is going to take a couple of years to redo this system. You've been at this for 40 something years. Okay. You're not going to go outside and yell at a plant and tell it to bloom. It doesn't work. You're an organism. You're going to heal at the rate that you heal. Give it time. You don't have to beat yourself up to think that you're going to get a result. And that is about understanding how to be present and in the moment, and observe your body and say, this is where I'm at today. What do I do today? How do I make today better? How do I do something today that's going to be put in the bank, so that the overall volume by the end of the year, it's not about the day, it's about the year. It's how much did you work on your body for an entire year? So if you have a bad day or something's coming up, that's okay, because it's all about, you're doing more than you did before.
I've said this to you, and I get self-conscious talking about myself in this, but this is why I wanted you on the show, in the sense of, because some of the things you told me have radically changed my life, not just in terms of the physical strength and the change and the loss of weight and all that stuff, but the body shaping piece. But the fact that you said this is going to take 2 years was such a gift, because it got me out of a mindset of, oh crap, I ate this today, which means I have to pound out a certain kind of workout tomorrow, which was a really up and down everyday thing, instead of, okay, you did this today, but don't worry about it, because you've got solid workouts plans for the next 5 days. You're good. So there was an internal calming and deflammation that happened from simply the mental approach to what the process was going to be. The line I always quote Derek, which I told Craig about, that changed my life, as we were working out one day and I was doing that, like I was making all the faces, and like grunting and groaning and all the expressions. And what did you say? You just said no faces. And that too changed it, because I realized, one, you just said it, it got me present with the activity. I think the activity got harder in a way, but it also felt more powerful. And it was a total life lesson about, why am I just do the thing?
Derek, what did it mean when you said no faces?
Yeah, we take away the habitual response that somebody has been conditioned to utilize in their subconscious without even realizing that they're doing it. And so you have somebody that's exerting themselves and all of this tension in their face and this wasted energy because they're trying to beat the weight with their cerebral capacity. And it has nothing to do with that. It's about being present, turning that off. And that's one area of something that I think Maury mastered was the ability to police himself and check himself in those situations where you can say, I'm here. Nothing else in the world is happening right now. It's me, the weight, it's me, the floor, it's me, the bar. I'm present. This is what it is. It's me and my breath. And you do those, and it's pretty amazing. There's a scientific study that came out about balance. And so if somebody that I have that's just won't just get out of their heads, sometimes I'll have them stand on one leg. And it's very difficult to have a conversation and balance at the same time. Most people cannot think of the two things. And there's different things that I can do with a body physically and put it in a position where it just shuts it down. The chatter, it neutralizes. And it's pretty interesting. I've seen it over the years is this kind of light bulb. And then it's about remembering the feeling. So the more Maury could not use his face, his body then realizes, oh, I don't need to go in a sympathetic fight state. I can be present and I can treat my body like it needs to be treated. I don't need to destroy it every time. So the fight's in the ring. Nobody wants to be a training hero. That means nothing. So when you need to use it, it'll be there. But the rest of the time, just be gentle and then put the work in and move on.
What do you see in people that progress in an exciting way? What do those kinds of students or people you work with have that maybe others have but haven't unlocked?
I think that we need to take the elites as far as we would perceive as a physical elite person. Let's put them aside for a second, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And let's talk about the general population. You have genetic pre-susceptibilities, okay? We also have epigenetics, right? So how do we turn those genes on and off?
Okay, what the hell does that mean? Epigenetics is an emerging area of scientific research that shows how environmental influences, children's experiences, actually affect the expression of their genes. This means the old idea that genes are set in stone has been disproven. Nature versus nurture is no longer a debate, it's nearly always both. Never knew that one. Be honest, did you?
And how do we express the best version of ourselves in an epigenetic way? So what do we give our body that's going to allow our body to express the positive genes and go ahead and put the negative in remission as much as we can? And that can include cancers and diseases and other things. So by thinking about the body as systems and not looking at it as, okay, I'm down here, this guy looks great, therefore he wins. No, I've run the best internally. I look at their blood, I look at their genes, and guess what? They have problems. And just because you have that physical look, it doesn't mean that the cholesterol is great. It doesn't mean that the calcium scores are great. And it doesn't mean that their moods aren't up and down because they're expressing a negative gene and it's creating addictive behavior. But they look great because they're dehydrated and they've been in a caloric deficit. But it's not lasting. So what I would say to people who start and they say, I'm stuck in this position because I want to get here, is learn a little bit more about yourself. Why are you stuck? What is the problem that you're stuck with? Do you not have energy? Do you not have lean mass? Is it something about you emotionally where you look at yourself and you're like, I don't like myself visually? Okay, so what is it exactly that has you stuck in that position? And once you can define that, what is that one thing? Then start to explore that area and say, if I just focus on my health and I master one thing for 30 days, whether it be going to bed earlier, whether it be not drinking alcohol for a month, whether it be that you drink more water with electrolytes and minerals, and you study one thing, by the end of the year, you get 12 things. And in 2 years, you got 24 foundational elements that you have done a whole month of training on, and you've applied in a healthy way. And then the body will change with that. So I think that the stuck mentality is about people getting in their head and start to loop because they get discouraged and they don't know where they're going because they don't understand their physiology and they don't understand what they actually are. I think that's the missing component is it's not being shown to people that you need to take care of your body. We're going to be around a long time. 90 years is a long time. And then the last 20 are very uncomfortable. So whatever you do now, however you set your game up, there's no free lunch. If you're an athlete, you blow out your joints, okay, then you're going to be uncomfortable. But if you're obese, if you're unhealthy, then your organs are going to fail and you got that problem. So you got to balance both sides. It's not about being this atlas of a human being, this David Goggins, this Jocko, this Joe Rogan type of just suck it up. I would not tell my kids and yell at my son and be like, get up, go run, stay hard.
I got to jump in on that because not that it surprises me because I already get a sense of who you are, but you seem like a pretty extreme dude. You ran up a mountain and you're doing stuff in Iceland for 24 hours. I'm not surprised that you say this, but you're not a suck it up guy. So who are you? Who are you? You seem like one of the toughest dudes ever, but then you come at me and throw me this, but I'm not somebody that's going to say, suck it up. And I find that fascinating. Who are you?
The main thing is there's me and there's you. We're two different animals. So if I'm teaching somebody and I'm a black belt, yeah, I'm a black belt. I can do all this crazy stuff, but you're going to develop your own art, your own expression of your body. And as long as we have health as the base, we can play and we can go to extremes, but as long as we have that nucleus, we always come back to, that's the commonality is health. That's the similarity between anybody. The rest of the stuff is it's just additional. Play with your body, see what you can do, see what God gave you, and then explore and learn something from it. How far can you go here? What'd you learn? Great. Are you going to be doing that in 10 years? Probably not. But can you play with it because you've developed it? Sure. Does that give you some mastery over yourself and over your body? Absolutely. As long as you learn something from it and move on. And that's my approach to it. And that's where the compassion comes in because I know how strong I am. I know stronger people than me, maybe physically, character-wise. That is my mission, is strength of character and heart. My discipline, and I had a great client, Maury a number of years ago. She's, that's your strength. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not the strongest guy, but I'll work. It's going to be rough to beat me. The fortitude and the tenacity that you get from a pit bull, those are things that I try to live in my life. And that applies to everything. And that's where it's at. And that's why with these different events that I've done, the test that I do for myself is, okay, what's the reminder that I need to know? I've gone here. Okay, so I don't need to worry about this. We'll get through this problem. That's what I searched. That's what I learned from my experiences going to that level. Not that everybody needs that, but that was my journey. And I think that the presentation of everybody needs to suck it up and stay hard. What about the ones that break? What about the ones that don't they need somebody to care for them too? My son, special needs. If I tell him stay hard, go run 10 miles and his legs fall off and he gets injured, what's the point? I don't see it.
My grandfather always used to have a line, too many is not better than too few. And what I heard in that was, right, that's what a master knows. He was a master boat builder and craftsman, but he knew you use 3 here, you use 1 there, you use 100 there. Like he knew the right number. And that's what masters know. They know the right answer. That's mastery. And it really blew me away with you if I was tired or I was feeling injured, like you never pushed me past. There was an amazing level of honesty that meant you were really listening to my condition, my mood, my physical ability any day. So we weren't going to create injury. And all of a sudden that's so much better because it's not pushing through the pain. It's not pushing through the hurt. That may cause more injury. Now we've got time we have to heal. I've heard you do that, and whether it was with your son or you've talked about it with the Alzheimer's patients, like each one of those areas needed its own answer. And you can't just apply some general thing. You have to really be honest with the situation. That's always floored me. That wasn't a question. That was a statement / reflection. Question though, Craig's laughing.
I like when he does that.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Derek. Sometimes you just have to let him go. He just runs. Yeah. He's like a freaking greyhound. He's like you in Iceland sometimes. It's okay. Yeah. It's just nice to watch. Just watch Maury in the wild. It's cool. Keep going.
It's cool. It's like I go this way, but then I go that way. Like Attenborough would be like, and now he doesn't know what he's doing. One question we like to ask people is, do you think mastery is available to anyone?
Yes. I don't speak in finite terms. I don't like to. Sometimes I do, but I don't like to. There's a large population of people, and we don't know the developmental state of many people. And with my situation in my heart for the disabled population, I never want to say anything that's going to exclude them. Do I think that that it's available to everybody to be able to master something? I would say generally yes, unless there is a vital void that is missing. Is mastery really the mission, or is it the pursuit of mastery that is the mission? And do I think that everybody has a pursuit of mastery? Absolutely. Do I think that everybody can master something? I think that they could possibly, but then as we all age and our brains start to shrink, guess what happens? Goes away. So is the pursuit of mastery and that practice that we continue to have to remind ourselves over and over again, I think that would be a yes. Mastery, I would say, depending on the person.
What's interesting about you and I, we grew up very different. I was kind of right in the middle of the herd, school, sport, team sport kind of guy. I am learning something as I get older. I had a scary dad, and I had a kind of a brother that got the brunt of, they were tussling. I've learned now as an adult that I kind of retreated. I played music, I did my own thing, I hung out with friends. I actually got good. I got very good at not being Derek. My survival, my way of coping was to get along with everybody, to almost be a pleaser. I'm a chameleon. I can make my way that way. You know what I'm saying? But it was not through effort or exerting or force or any of those things. It was the opposite. It was actually the opposite kind of coping skill. As I get older, there's some shame around that. Like I feel some shame that I don't have the grit that I don't have. So I went off to be an athlete, a college soccer player. And honestly, when I think about it, I didn't have the mind to keep competing, as you have mentioned, the mind for it. Something about whatever my patterns were, my conditioning, it was too much of a struggle. And as I'm sitting and looking in your eyes and hearing your story, how much does the mind, how much does grit, how much does surviving inform who you are?
I do think a lot of it is the response, I don't want to say survival response, but I think that the brain is an organ and the health of the body is going to feed your brain. Okay, so an unhealthy body, you're going to have negative effects on the organ itself. What creates a person? What are those foundational elements, like you're saying? Is there something deeper? What was it about me that caused me to then say, all right, I'm going to be the stick in the mud. I'm not going to move. I'm going to be the wall, versus somebody that practices escapism? What coping mechanism is our survival mechanism that we learn and inherit at an early age that then sets the track record up for our future? To look at myself as, if you want to use a psychologist term and say, okay, here's the child. Look at yourself as the child, recognize that and say, I forgive you. I'm going to take care of you. I would say it's fairly recent that it becomes that way. I think that I learned after seeing so many different people in pain, age, going through my own struggles. And then with that, it just became just general compassion, I think, is my spirituality, is having that compassion for human beings. And I'll see them and I'll say, okay, this person is, oh, he's expressing this and this, or he's adrenaline dominant and he has this going on, and we need a couple of these supplements and run him on a treadmill for an hour. That'll chill him out. Like that's good. It's not, oh, this guy's just a complete jerk and write him off.
So what the hell do you have mastery? You have mastery in like 900 things. We've had a guy on that was like the master of the Ford Mustang. That's a very easy thing to put in a box about mastery. But you're quite a fascinating person. Let's say mastery is a journey and not a destination. What is your pursuit of mastery in today?
I think that as far as what I've worked the longest on, and if you want to use our little Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour, whatever, I do think there's something to that. But like I said, it goes back to, you don't have to have just one thing, but if you practice multiple things over a period of time, that creates the person. Those are your habits. And I would say for me, my mastery has come into my ability to analyze behaviors and understand where I am and what I'm doing, and to build out a model and have the fortitude and the discipline to follow that model in order to change and recognize behaviors that would be negative behaviors that I don't want to have into my body or my family in general. and recognize those, put them out objectively and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's our training model. This is how we're going to retrain that system. And then in myself, look at that and say, these are patterns of behavior that I don't really want to recognize as a human being. I want to give my kids my best. And so in order to do that, well, how do I build a superhero? What are the qualities that I want? And then I objectively create a periodizational model. And all right, this is going to take me a year to learn this one. This is going to take me 2 years, and then build systems. I would say that's something that I had mastered. And that's something that I share with other people.
Could you put that into terms of working with somebody?
I would say, okay, what are our positive traits that you exhibit, that you do on a daily basis, and helpful things to your body and to your mind? And what are harmful things? What are negatives? And then we'll look at the negatives and we'll say, okay, here's our positive, here's our negatives. How long does it take to create a habit? Which one of these negative patterns of behavior is something that we can work on eliminating first? You don't have to worry about the rest of them. And then we look at your lifestyle and we look at your amount of time that you exercise and your diet and your sleep schedule. And we'll say, all right, where does that fit in? When are you doing that? Is it a thought process, or what can we do in order to neutralize that negative behavior? And then we give a substitution positively, or we give you something else to do.
You keep bringing it back to the family. Is it true that it's a big part for you that, like, treat this body so that you can go participate in the world around you?
Yeah, it's, for me, that's something I think that's one of those tenets that I try to live by is, all right, as a parent, I get one shot, right? In life, this moment today is gone. What do you do when you wake up and you say, how am I going to present myself to the world? What is the best version of yourself that you can present? And don't the people that you love and those that you associate with deserve the best you? If you can show them that person and you can strive towards being that person, then I think that they deserve it. And I think that when you can do that, it really then over time reiterates those different sort of behavioral elements that I'm talking about with, as far as what positive attributes do you have currently and which are the negative ones, which everybody knows they have. Okay, then write it down, make a plan, get a plan, and then implement those patterns of behaviors, because we get one shot. Why not be the best, most optimal version in health and in mentality that we can be? And that's my thought process on that.
It's pretty solid.
If you had a magic wand and there were one thing all of us could do to improve our health that is accessible and an action that everybody could take a day to get started, what would be the one thing you wish everybody would do every day that they don't do?
I think that the very first thing is not an action at all, but it's a thought. And I think that thought is gratitude for your body. And if everybody woke up in the morning with being grateful for their bodies and being thankful for what they have, I think that would set the tone. But I think we're in a culture and we're in a ramped up society where it's about being essentially a robot and out of your body, and being a consumer and you're just a cog in the wheel. And people treat themselves like they're just the worst. And they beat themselves up and they get angry at themselves about their health and their wellness, when they would never, or hopefully never, treat their dog or animal that way. And I've seen people feed their pets better than they feed themselves. They treat themselves terribly. But I think that it's because they're angry at themselves, rather than having that state of gratitude, saying, wow, I can move like this. I can go out and I can walk. Because if people understood their mortality and they understood this is not finite, it goes away. And you only have youth for so long. You only have middle age for so long. And I've seen people, many people pass away that were extremely strong and healthy, and they passed away and they had muscles. Great. I've seen people broken and I've seen them pass away miserably and never reach that full potential. And working with so many older adults and be exposed with so much of that at those elder years, and looking at them when they say, it doesn't matter how much money I have, I would give anything to be 35, to be 40 again. And to see it at that end allowed me to have that perception and say, okay, then there's something bigger than all of this, and that's time. We don't get it
Yeah,
back.
right.
And that's it. Today is the day. There is no tomorrow. It's day one.
Okay, I'm going to tee this one up, and you're just going to cock back and just punch me right through the screen into the face. I'm really lobbing you a softball here. Maury, he doesn't know where I live. He may actually come after me on this. Oh, I already told him. Damn it. Okay.
He can totally find you. He doesn't need your address.
Oh, shit. Okay. We haven't said this before on the podcast, but I'm a guy that many years ago stopped drinking because drinking was a problem for me. And I really liked to drink. I didn't quit drinking because I didn't love it. I quit drinking because it wasn't working for me. I'm a guy that got sober. And as I got sober, I have realized pretty obviously that you talked about that I'm a human being that has feelings. I bump into the world makes me feel a certain way. Some of those feelings I'm not comfortable with. What I used to do is turn to alcohol because it felt really great on anxiety or fear or some of these negative emotions, but I can't do that anymore. What I like to do is I like to relax and I like to have a cigar. In my mind, just on the heels of what you just said, I feel like this is my rationale. This is why I'm teeing this up, and you can really let me have it, is I gave up booze. That was a dead end for me. I guess the question might be around a binge or the cheat day or something. I feel because I gave that up and that was such a big behavior that I changed, right? I'm so proud of myself that I modified a behavior that was hurting me. And I do understand the freaking insanity that I'm saying. I gave up something that would hurt me to pick up something else that would hurt me. But to me, this feels like less of a hurt, if you will, or maybe a little bit of a reward or something that still helps me treat the way I'm feeling, relax, enjoy my life. How does that all sound to you? Does that sound like total crap? Or does that sound like you could work with me?
It's something that I've heard all the time. It's not anything that is completely off the wall. It's really common. What is it about addiction? And this is a great book here, Adrenaline Dominance. There's a lot of things going on within the body's systems that we're trying to self-regulate or medicate. So what is it about the cigar, right? And that habitual behavior? You have alcohol in order to change the state that you're in, because what are you trying to calm down is the frequency, because you're up here. How do I calm that down? So when I have my cigar, it allows me to be in a parasympathetic state, because what happens is when you're sitting down or you're relaxing, you're doing something that creates a little bit of dopamine. How do you get the dopamine? What causes your body to dump dopamine? Why do you not have dopamine? Is it the fact that you have a high level of cortisol and stress in your body, which means that you probably have a high level of adrenaline, which then we'll look at hormones and say, what internally is off? Is it two genes? You have a slow COMT and a fast MAO. Are those two things out of whack? Do you need something within the system that will allow it to become balanced and neutral? That's one area that we'll look inside and say, what is it that causes the dependency for that change in the internal homeostasis? The other one we'll look at is say, okay, this puts you in a parasympathetic state. So this could be an action or a pattern of behavior that calms you down. So is a cigar, when you list the risks versus the reward, throat cancer kind of sucks. So is it something that, all right, we're going to smoke cigars for the next 40 years? Is that the only way you can cope with the stresses of life? Or is there a better medium that you can say, I'm going to taper off this, right? So let's say I'm going to have a cigar on Saturday and Sunday, but then during the week, I'm going to find something else to generate a dopamine response, a walk, a run, an environmental stimulus. When we talked about the cold showers, you're going to give you a cold shower for 11 minutes a week. You get a 4-hour dopamine dump after that. That's an easy one. That's trending and popular right now. Everybody blows themselves out, ice baths and this and that, but it doesn't take a lot of stimulus in order to allow the body to have a chemical response. So what is it, if you look at your cigar and you say, I'm a smart guy, here's my risks, here's my reward, is having a cigar 4 or 5 times a week, is that really the best choice? Or should we start to taper it back and find other things that emit the same chemical response? And when you can look at it objectively, then we can go back to that pattern of behavior and look at that model that we're talking about, as far as taking a positive behavior or a substitute within a negative amount of coping mechanism to say, What can replace what I'm trying to generate internally from this? Once we have that answer, then we build it out and you say, okay, here's my 6-week plan. And then find some positive things that elicit those responses rather than destructive. Now, is a cigar going to kill you? One, not really, but doing it as a coping mechanism over the next 30 years, you'll lose your tongue.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I appreciate that. I like it a lot.
It's making me think a lot about how sometimes dietary changes, restrictions, changes in our behavior for health, I've always thought of them as punishments. I can't eat sugar. Boo hoo. Like it's the thing that's bad. I'm mad about not eating the thing that's bad for me. Like somehow so that also made me think, I like what you're talking about, Derek. I've got to replace that with something, even if it's gratitude. I love that. Even if it's just joy of just being joyful that I'm not eating sugar. I think when you came to me and said this is going to take 2 years, that started that thought process for me of this is a long game. You can relax. You don't have to be counting calories and workouts all the time. I don't know if you have something to say on that, how to change your value system so the things you're not doing are exciting.
I think people are relatively simple, but I don't think they're dumb. And I think that if you can view people as intelligent, and you say, look, I'm going to view you as a smart person, and you just address them like that. Not everybody it's going to stick to. Most of the population, especially the people that I get as clientele in my area, have some sort of level of higher education and intellect. And so when I can take something that's a pattern of behavior and I can lay it out for them and say, you're smart. You have success here. You have success here. Why are you giving this thing power over you when you have the power? And you've done it in other areas. So how do you take the discipline from this area of success and translate it over here? And then that's it. And then when you say, okay, wow, yeah, if I'm going to focus on my health, like it makes sense to me. Everybody talks about it. And then I'm going to take those negative behaviors and put positive behaviors in there. You're adding, you're not taking away. Your body's going to respond better. You're going to be clear. You're going to get more out of it, and other areas are going to open up. But I think that as far as looking at everything like, this is a punishment, eat your vegetables. I run an MRT test and I see people with leaky gut. And I had a guy flagged for lettuce. He has an inflammatory response from lettuce. Things that we think are healthy as far as nutrition wise, they're not. If you analyze the actual product itself, it has nothing to do with the apple or the orange or whatever. It has to do with your body's response to that specific item. How do you digest it? How do you break it down? Not everything's good for you. That's good for me. We have different gut biomes. Bio-individuality, I think, is an important component that everybody needs to explore and understand, that they're unique in their own way and that they are their own person, and that you can't look at, say, you do this, so I'm going to do this, and this is bad, and this is good. Not true.
For the sake of time, folks, I think we have to start moving towards the end, although I feel like Craig and I could talk to Derek for hours. We have a closing question, which is, what do you think are the 3 components of mastery?
Okay. This is just out the gate. Number 1, discipline and fortitude. Number 2 would be gratitude. And number 3 is action.
Very good. Beautiful.
Juicy. Discipline, fortitude, gratitude, and action.
If you apply that, you find something you want to do objectively, you decide to do it, you have the discipline and you have the tenacity and fortitude to continue to do it over an extended period of time. You have gratitude and being grateful that you were able to do it, and you actually do the work. I think then that would create mastery.
Right.
Maury, I think you should start an immediate anti-moon pie behavior that I would be happy to work with you on. Yeah, that feels to be the most pressing risk to the podcast right now, is your moon pie problem.
My moon pie addiction. But if moon pie, if you would like to sponsor the show, we are gratefully accepting sponsors.
I can't condone that.
We'll talk later off record. Derek, is there anything else you want to talk about? And also, how can people reach you and talk to you more, or train with you, or ask you questions?
I'm private.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So that's like a go fuck yourself, Maury. Yeah, nice.
That's awesome.
No, here's a guy that's got all the answers, and go fuck yourself. No, it's great.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm working on becoming more accessible.
Derek and I talk about samurai swordsmanship philosophy and reading the Hakagure. We have ongoing conversations about how to deal with family, marriage, social media, how to participate in the world right now where you have value, but you're not just grandstanding. I'm so grateful to know he's a friend, and I'm so grateful to had you on the show, because I think you really are an everyday master, because it's not just about pushing your limits to riding your motorcycle faster on the racetrack. It's always comes home about what is best for you, like you said, how to be your best self, and really inviting that out in others in the way they can on that day. And that's the everyday part. Just try and be the best you can in the circumstances where you are. And I think that started off as a question, but it's ending more as a compliment, and just gratitude for you to be on the show and come and talk to us and talk about how to live a better life.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that with us and things that we strive to do and strive to implement in our lives, like I said before, you have to do it every day. It's endless. There's no end to it. And being a master of something today, like I said, how long will that last? It lasts as long as I practice. And so as long as I practice and I continue to grow and learn and test myself, I would say, just because we did talk a lot of fitness and behavior modification, but one of the greatest feelings is when somebody can surprise themselves. They can look at themselves and have some sort of pride, and they say, wow, I just did that, and have that change. That's my favorite thing about teaching people, is when I see that little light turn and they learn something and it's changed. And then, wow, now it's part of their behavior, and the character of the person, they're able to express something that's locked away and hidden. And how do we unlock those keys to let somebody completely blossom? And so that's my favorite thing, is being able to help to try to open up some of those doors. But thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely talk soon.
Derek, you're a gem, man. You're a master at so many things. It has been an honor to talk to you. And trust me, a lot of what you said to me got in there today. I'm mostly interested in how you torture Maury moving forward, and I'd like to hear more about that. But thanks so much for being on Everyday Masters, Derek. You are a prize, and I wish you all the best in the future. And let's hang sometime in San Diego, my brother.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
And now it's time for the wrapper-upper.
So, Maury, Derek is not what I thought.
Uh-huh.
I thought...
Who are you?
I thought everybody's got a lot of different pieces to the puzzle, but that guy, I definitely thought I knew who I was dealing with, and I did not know who I was dealing with. Like, clearly amazing personal athlete in his own right, and then became like some bananas kind of expert in helping others. But my wrapper-upper has to be when I asked him, hey, what's the one thing you wish everybody would think about every day? I think that's a bit of a life-changing moment, his response. I really thought he was going to say, if everybody would just walk 10,000 steps, or drink 7 glasses of water with a little lemon. Like, I really thought I was setting him up for something like that. And what he said was, it wouldn't even be an action. It would be a thought, and it would be a thought of gratitude, of how amazing our bodies are. And if everyone would just start from the place of what a gift, that like you can wiggle your fingers and toes, that right now you and I have the great gift of being healthy, and that we have this body and can use this body and cherish this body, that maybe it would have us flip the script on how we treat this body. That was big. That's a big moment, and it was well delivered. A wonderful guy. It's super cool. Really got me thinking. What's your wrapper-upper?
My wrapper-upper was, who are you? But I love that. I loved, okay, folks, like, podcasts are weird because, or not weird, but there's this thing where you can just talk to your friends. And that's what we're getting to do here. I'm talking to my dear friend, Craig. And in this case, I've gotten to talk to my dear friend, Derek. And at the same time, I'm just feeling unbelievably fortunate that these actually are my friends and I get to talk to them. Because seeing you respond to him and ask that question floored me. Because that's why it expressed why I think Derek is such an interesting character. And I think a big wrapper-upper I had was from that question of, you can set your own goals for yourself. You can be a high performer in lots of ways. You can really push yourself to learn and grow in any way you want. But that doesn't mean you get to put that on somebody else because they are different. And just because he's a super tough guy, and I don't know if he'd say I'm a tough guy, he's I'll make it hard for you or whatever he said. I'm going to make it tough for you to win. He goes the distance, but he goes the distance in towards the other person as well, of really inviting their best out, but not demanding that they are like him. I just think that is such an incredible combination of things. He's changed my life. We were laughing about it, but don't make faces. I'll never forget that, because I think that goes to your point of just really appreciate where you are and what is happening with nothing extra, and really feeling your body move and work and find balance and structure and poise, which then has a powerful dignity within. And integrity within. I heard a lot about his personal story today, which is just his childhood and why he was drawn to the martial arts, and also his struggle with his son. I thought that was a powerful to be open about, just saying how angry we can be, especially with our children, when things aren't going well. And what do we do with that? But that he was then able to transform it and help others and really address people right as they are. It floored me. Really cool.
I also really dug that notion. I've always known this, where he was just like, I think he called it independent biology or something like that. It's like we all just think we're identically the same because we're human beings. And it's just, It's very clear talking to him that whatever's going on with me is different than in my body is different than what's going on in your body. And we all just look at these magazines. We're like, oh, man, I wish I had those abs or whatever. And like from the inside out, it's a different story, and therefore it's a different solution. It's a different method to get you where you want to go. I mean, that makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
Super cool, dude. Awesome guest.
Super
really cool. I hope I get to meet with him and get really strong, like stronger than you, and then be strong.
Yeah, you probably can do that in a couple years, 3 or 4 years, like 10. I think you do it. It's a project. You'll get it done though, dude. I believe in you. Thanks, everybody.
Talk to you soon.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Master.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.
Everyday Masters.